So thank you for that introduction, and thank you all for being here. First of all, I just want to say my colleague Meenakshi and I decided to do this topic. It's universally applicable. I think it's more important now than it ever has been because we've all been pushed into the future of work. We're all experiencing this same global pandemic, and it provides enormous opportunities for us along with the challenges. And so we want you to have more opportunity to tap into your power and action and find your voice. And I have two wishes for you today, really. One is that we just have a good time together, that we're able to enjoy this, and please keep it collaborative. And then the second one would be, we're getting ready to give you a flood of information. And I don't think that it would be realistic that the exact same things resonate with all of us. So just take the pressure off and pick one or two things that happen to resonate with you and choose to spend a little bit of time on that afterwards. One item that gives you an insight or one tool that you want to try later, that will probably be more powerful than trying to appreciate all the different pieces that we're sharing. So one last thing, we have links on a number of the slides, and Meenakshi also has provided some worksheets and resource documents for us. So please email us. Please feel free to email either one of us, both of us afterwards. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Feel free to take screenshots as we go through here. We want this to be as useful to you as possible. So Uma did a great job of introducing me, but let me just tell you a little bit more about myself. So I'm the owner, and I call myself an action coach. I'm really a professional coach with Better with Rose. And ROSE is an acronym for receptivity, organization, sequencing, and efficiency. And for today, I would like for us to think of that E, efficiency, as ease. The more ease you have, just be comfortable and enjoy this process, the more receptive you'll be to choose an insight or tool and move forward with it. So I re-entered the workforce after spending a period of time at home with my children when it was still during the Great Depression. Most companies were still on a hiring freeze. And I did it by finding unique opportunities and openings. I didn't climb a traditional ladder. That hasn't been my path. However, the same principles apply regardless of whether you're in a more traditional environment or whether you are looking for those unique openings and opportunities. In 2015, I took a role as marketing director for a mid-sized regional law firm in the DC area. And then last year, I told them, look, I want to go part-time. And they went with it. They were happy to do that with me, and I started my own business. And so now I'm able to work with professionals, typically growing professionals, and we find potential possibilities and greater fulfillment. And I do it, like Uma said, through coaching packets, which are at a low price point, so they're accessible to anyone, and then also through one-on-one virtual coaching. We find what's holding me back and focus on moving forward. Meenakshi?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Mindee. And thank you, the Star and Me team and Lean In Creative Women Leaders. Thank you for hosting us. And I wouldn't be here if Mindee hadn't graciously invited me to this. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you very much. Just a little, yes, just a little bit more about myself. My name is Meenakshi Iyer. I'm based here in Ashburn, Virginia, on the East Coast of the United States. I moved here in 2008 as a trailing spouse. I moved here because of my husband's job. He was transferred. So like Mindee, I really haven't had a traditional ladder at work, if you will. My more than 2 decades of experience is in different industries, and it primarily happened because of life events. I've moved around a lot, even in India. So between India and the US, I've lived in more than 10 different cities. I speak 4 languages, and I think I spent most of my life trying to fit in. And okay, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay.
I can hear you. Good.
Okay, thank you.
I'll probably mute everyone else.
Okay.
Okay,
okay, thank you. So last year's, actually August 9th will be my 1-year anniversary with North Star Solutions and Services, which is something that I started in August of 2019 after taking a break from corporate life. I've spent my life, most of my career in IT-enabled services, healthcare, health IT, and what I found was the fact that we show up as whole, we bring our whole selves to work. And a lot of times we forget that, and we expect people to behave differently at the workplace, and we struggle with some of the challenges that we see at work. Somehow we attribute it, I feel like we think of ourselves as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And the more I notice that, and the more I realize that I am actually, as a leader, as a manager, I'm spending more and more time in understanding human processes and what's happening at that level. That's what prompted me to start North Star Solutions and Services. And I'm also in my coaching journey right now. So what I do is I love to work with technology leaders and organizations and helping co-create agile and inclusive experiences, not only for their employees, but also for their clients. I'm a lean, agile, and human-centered design practitioner, and I focus on collaboration and agility across boundaries because of my own lived experience of living in different places. I've almost always lived in places where I didn't speak the local language at all, or I didn't speak it as well as the locals did. And so for me, inclusion is a big part of what I do. And I work with individuals. I do one-on-one coaching, virtual coaching, and also work with organizations in building out their inclusive work environments and also learning and development programs. Really, really happy to collaborate here with Mindee. So we were just chatting before. Mindee and I have not met in person at all. Neither have Uma and I. But we just hit it off, and here we are. So this is one of the, I think, best forms of collaboration and what technology can do for us, as long as it's powered by true human intent. So once again, thank you everyone for taking the time to be with us here today on a Saturday. And I know at various points in time for everyone. Some of the themes that Mindee and I wanted to talk about today, all of you have seen the key takeaways. We just wanted to highlight a few of those items here. The focus is on self-awareness. I believe that, and then this is something Mindee and I have talked about as well, that perhaps the most important person that you'll ever lead is yourself. So understanding yourself, who you are, and what your passions are, what your needs and wants are, and being intentional about it. And then how do you communicate that with clarity and confidence? And when we do that, we have, there are decisions that you have to make. You also have to stick to the decisions that you make. So accountability around that. And then more often than not, authenticity towards oneself is key. So asking some of those really hard, tough, powerful questions. And what are some of the tools and practices that will help you put all this together? So this is what we would like to share with you today. So again, just like Mindee said, there's a whole bunch of information because we wanted to take into account different learning styles, different backgrounds. So we promise you this, there's going to be something for everyone. And I totally agree with Mindee that just have fun with it, see what resonates with you, and just decide to work with it throughout, and at the end of the session as well. So having said all this, I wanted to do a quick poll via the chat. If each of you can share in the chat window, what is it that you would like out of today's session? You've seen the takeaways, you've seen the themes, what resonates with you, and what is it that you would like to take away in one sentence? If you can put that in the chat window, that'd be great. We'll just take a minute.
And I don't know if there's a way for me to do it, but I can't see the chat while I have it up with my screen share. So if there's anything worth me hearing, I would love to have it read out.
Yes, I'm going to call it out as we go.
Great.
So I hear powerful questions, two of them. Shruti, Kritika said powerful questions. Anjali says self-awareness. Brenda said learning powerful questions. Powerful questions, a lot of powerful questions. Tools and practices. Sifwa says that. Okay.
That's interesting. So I would say, since so many people are saying powerful questions, we do absolutely have a section that Meenakshi is going to guide us through about being curious about yourself. But I also just want to offer, on my website, betterwithrose.com, in the Rose Tips tab, you'll find a post about powerful questions that has a huge comprehensive list. I actually just happened to do a social post on that by coincidence yesterday. But if you're really looking for powerful questions, that is a curated list of some that please feel free to go and check it out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mindee. And Uma says understanding others, decision making, and accountability is also important. Okay, so this is great. We get a sense of some of the areas that we might focus on a little bit more than we had originally planned. So this is very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so if we could move on to the next slide. Great. So I wanted to kick us off with something that I've come up with recently, and I've crystallized it as a model. I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek, and I'm sure most of us have heard his TED Talk at some point in time or not. So he talks about starting with why. He has a book, Start with Why. And that's something, as a change management transformation consultant, that's something that always stays with me. So if I have to do something, for me, understanding the why is very important. And so you'll see that in the POD model, I also happen to love acronyms. So purpose, outcome, design, right? And that's POD. And for me, POD is also very self-contained. So there's a lot of visual elements to it as well. I'm a student of science that also studied business. So it's a weird combination for some. Purpose, starting with why is it that you want to do what you want to do? Understanding that. And there are several ways in which you can do that. There are assessments out there that you can take. But I think a lot of it is reflection and just sitting down and think through what is it that you really want to achieve. So we all are in different phases in our lives and careers. So you could be you could be looking for a job, or you could be looking for a next promotion, or you could be trying to make a decision of whether you want to start your own business. So around that, your awareness and your intentionality, to me, that's what dwelling on purpose lets you achieve. The next, once you figured out your why, moving on to your what. What is it that you want to do or provide? What is the value that you're looking for? That's where your wants and your needs come into the picture. So why, what, and once you have those two figured out, you want to figure out the how, and that's your design, right? And in there lies your confidence and clarity with which you communicate. And what is it that you do? As Mindee introduced herself, if you caught it, she is an action coach. And that's one of the things Mindee focuses on. How do you convert your thoughts and your ideas into action? And you're going to hear more about it from Mindee. So to me, your pod, once you've figured out your pod, that directly leads you to your value. And I want to take a minute here and talk about value versus worth. This is a discussion for someone like me who has just transitioned from being employed. So I've been part of the workforce as an employee for more than 20 years. And then now this is my first year as being self-employed. What is my value, and how do I determine how I get paid for what I do and what I bring to the table, right? I've had many conversations around this, and I find that particularly us as women, we struggle with not only determining our value and worth, but also communicating it and asking for what we think we're worth. So for me, value is what you already know about yourself. What is it that you bring to the table? So if you go through the pod process, it'll allow you to arrive at your value. My value, for example, I'm good at bringing people together. So one of my strengths is also connectedness. And I'm good at connecting the dots. So someone like me, what is the value I provide? The value I provide is that I can help you think through problems. I'm a thinking partner. What am I worth to you? Now, worth is something that's determined by your customer. And when Mindee and I were talking about, running through this in preparation for today, one of the things that popped up in my head was, okay, if let's say childcare, early child development, is that the kind of service I provide? Who is going to be my target customer? Mom with 2 kids under the age of 5, or someone, an independent professional who's single and has no kids. So if I provide this value, who is it going to be worth more for? And that's for me to understand as I figure out what I want to do with my value. Who am I approaching and how am I approaching and communicating my value? And that's what converts itself into worth. The other thing is, if I myself don't value myself, my time and my skills, it's absolutely foolish of me to expect others to do that. So the understanding of my value and the confidence in knowing it, and this is where it goes back to awareness and intentionality and all of that, is key in me communicating with confidence and clarity my value, so that the other person doesn't have, he has no choice but to give me the worth that my value brings. So this is what I wanted to kick us off. And with this, I'm passing it off back to Mindee.
Thank you, Meenakshi. That's great. I love the way you describe it and help us refocus back to, why do we do what we do? And as women especially, we have to figure out how to self-advocate, have that confidence, and it blends over perfectly. I'm going to remind you about a couple other little things here that you already know, and then we're going to get into some exercises. I want to talk about balancing your work. And when you look at this triangle, it has fulfillment and relevance in the middle. We all, whether we are running our own businesses, whether we're trying to climb a ladder in a large company, whatever we're doing, we focus on the production of our goods and services. And there's a reason for that. It makes a lot of sense, right? That's how the paychecks come in. At the same time, it's our jobs to take care of ourselves by continually rebalancing, because we're always on the move. Nothing is ever truly static. As soon as you get something perfect, it's shifting again one way or the other. We've got to stay on the move and stay in balance. We've got to keep a learning and growing perspective happening, and I don't know what that means for you. It could be formal education. It can be just interesting things that you incorporate to help you in your professional life. And you also have to balance fun and enjoyment. And these are key pieces that I think are minimized in today's business environment. It is absolutely not just about production. For you to be able to stay relevant and for you to have fulfillment, you absolutely need to keep some focus on bringing in learning and growing opportunities and just having a good time. You deserve to have fun and enjoy it to really keep that fulfillment there, because otherwise it's just a job and we'll eventually burn out. I wanted to leave you with this piece, and then I'm shifting gears a little bit because this is really what all of our goals are. And I want to talk about how to build a house. This sounds really simple. You all know this already, 100%, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway because I think there's value here. And I know for me, at a certain point in my younger years, when I really caught on to this, it gave me a cold chill. It was a powerful and paradigm shifting way to look at things for me. So how to build a house. It's always starting out with an idea. The house that you're sitting in right now, the shirt that you're wearing, the computer that you're looking at, everything around you, it was just an idea first before somebody figured out a way to bring it into reality. So talking about a house, what this means is they have an idea to build a house, whatever that is. They've either got to start drawing or writing or talking about it to somebody else who can draw and write. There's architectural designs eventually that have to be made. Then people need to start moving the earth. and a foundation has to be laid. You can't really do it in any other order than that. It pretty much has to happen in a certain order for this. Then you've got people laying pipes and running electrical. Eventually there's walls that are put up, and it's got to be before that framing has to be there before you can add windows and roofs. Then you can start thinking about the painting and adding in furniture before somebody can actually live there. All of these steps need to happen, and it starts with an idea and then it moves into manifestation, reality in our world. Digging a little bit deeper here, that house, starting with an idea, coming into reality, it applies to everything. It applies to you having the idea that you want to be a CEO, you wanting to run your own company, wanting the next promotion, whatever it is in your personal or professional life, you have that idea and then have the opportunity to move it into fruition. I want to give one example, though, that I think might make it more tangible for you over the next couple days as you're thinking about this. If you're sitting on the couch maybe in the late afternoon and you think, I want to make dinner, you actually have to get up off of that couch, walk to the kitchen, find the ingredients, find the tools, and do the work to make the dinner. It's the exact same process for everything that we do. And in this process of taking something from an idea and bringing it into reality, the idea part is often thought of as a feminine or passive energy, and the bringing it into reality is thought of as a masculine or active energy. And we all have this. It's got nothing to do with whether we are male or female. It's got to do with the passive to active movement in everything that we experience and everything that we do. So the hardest part is bridging that gap from the idea to the action. And I want you to think about this bridge as having a couple tension points. One of the tensions that keep it up are balancing humility with confidence and self-advocacy. That's an important tension as you're pursuing your goals. And the other tension point is balancing urgency with patience. It's never a rush. And if it feels like a rush, you can probably make some adjustments and do it differently. It's urgency balanced with patience. And nature is our perfect teacher in this. You can plant a seed in the ground, and to plenty of people, it looks like it's dead. But what happens is you can't see anything on the top. It starts to grow the roots and eventually breaks through the soil and creates a plant. That's what we're doing with all of these goals, dreams, and actions that we want to take. It's the same process. So if you look at this picture for a second, you can see obviously the bridge is hooked to the other side somewhere. We can't see where our feet are going to land, but we know where our feet were on this side, and we chose to walk forward a little bit. We know what rough direction we're going in, and that bridge is pretty strong. Looks okay. I'm taking steps. I'm doing the best I can to take the next best right action forward. As you get a little further along the path, you might go, okay, great, I can see the tree. I have a better idea now, not just the direction, but I can actually see the tree that I'm trying to get to. I still can't see where my feet are going to land. And as I'm looking around, it's kind of foggy, and this bridge doesn't look so safe anymore. That's the way it works. There are scary points where you have to just step out, not knowing what's going to happen next, and trust that your feet will be supported. But again, it's just taking that next right action to get you there. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add a couple of things just popped up as you just said that, Mindee. So, with my lean and agile background, one of the things that popped up for me is, in those of us that are familiar with software and product development that follows an agile way of working, you typically break up a piece of a project into smaller chunks. And the key is that you do something, is action. And then you do that, and then you see what you learned from it, and you do inspect and adapt, continuously improve. When you talked about, the bridge is hooked somewhere, so you know that the project has a goal, and you're going towards it, but it's the steps that you take to getting there that's key. The other thing that popped up in my head was, and this happens to me all the time, especially when I'm trying to get out of the parking lot of a shopping center, and I've turned my GPS on, but my GPS is looking confused. It's spinning until I move. And when I move, then the GPS orients itself and it tells me where I need to be. So the thing that you talked about, sitting on a couch planning for dinner, oh my God, I do that all the time. And my kitchen is right like 3 feet away from my couch. So it's not even that distance, but that action that I need to take those steps, and that intention that I need to have with that. So these visuals spurred those visuals for me. I just wanted to share that. Back to you.
That's great. I love it. I love the GPS, and it's so painfully true. It has no idea until you actually start moving. So we're going to move into a couple things that are going to give you a significant advantage over most people in business. And again, I bet you already know this, but whether or not you practice it regularly is another thing. So I just want to read you this quote from Maya Angelou. I think it applies now more than ever during the global pandemic that we're all experiencing, us all having been forced into the future of work. She said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Your feelings matter. And the more in touch you can become with your specific feelings, and the more that you can articulate them, the more advantage you're going to have in your communications with people, in your communications with yourself, and then in choosing your actions." So I want to introduce you to the feeling wheel. This is something you can, again, I've got a link at the bottom of the slide. Feel free to take screenshots. Please email me and Meenakshi afterwards. We would love to hear from you. Happy to give you the slides. You can print this out. Use it. Use it as a tool. What you do with the feeling wheel is, and for some people, it might be that they can only identify feelings in this inner circle: sad, mad, scared, peaceful, powerful, joyful. You know, maybe you can only name those big buckets of emotions. Maybe you're someone who does have a little bit more command over feeling words and are able to articulate some specifics, but you don't really know what that means. And here's an example. So what I say here is identify feelings on the outer rings that you experience in relation to a given situation or experience. That's easier said than done for some of us. But let me talk about it for a second here with one. So in a given situation, I might feel stupid, inferior, and hurt all at the same time. And I have no idea what that means. But if I look at the feeling wheel, it can help me recognize that I'm hovering in that sad and mad zone. And being able to start recognizing what you're feeling can help lead you to why. And then the why can help lead you to what to do about it. Because the truth of it is, for most of us, we just go into a tailspin and create stories in our head and don't get most of these things resolved and never really understand why we're suffering anyway. If you can put words to it, articulate it out loud, and get better at this, you're going to be able to harness this significant power that's a gift we're all born with and taught to stuff down and ignore and try not to feel. You don't have to do that. You can feel them, you can own them, and then you can choose what to do about it in a powerful way. You'll have a significant leg up on those around you. And frankly, you'll just be able to help them more, which I think is probably way more important than beating out the competition. If we're able to help those around us and lift everybody up together, we all rise. So listen to your body, pay close attention to what it tells you, because you can harness this for significant benefit. I want to quickly show you, before Meenakshi leads us through an exercise, I want to show you two other options. So if the feeling wheel resonates with you, there's this Plutchik wheel. All of these are also easily Googleable. The Plutchik wheel is just a simpler version. If you find the other feeling wheel a little bit overwhelming, you might want to start with a Plutchik wheel, which is more simple. And for those of you who really like this, you might want to try the black and white feeling wheel and get some colored pencils and use the color to color in what you feel matches to an experience that you're having with a certain color. That can be a very, very powerful exercise and way to use this too. Okay, Meenakshi?
Great, thank you, Mindee. I have recently started doing this. I'm known to have a short fuse, and so this really helped me not only acknowledge it, but also name it and then move on with it, just like Mindee said. Another person that, another expert in this field that I follow on LinkedIn is Professor Susan David. She's done a whole bunch of work on emotional agility. And one of the things she talks about is emotions are data, not drivers. So if it's data, then interpret the data to get your story and then figure out what you need to do next. So the scientific part of my brain, that really appeals to me, and which is why I like doing this feeling wheel exercise. And so actually I've used this from Mindee's website and try to do this. So if I may ask all of you to, you can do this in your mind, you want to write it, you want to share it in the chat window, whatever works for you. We're going to do a quick 30-second exercise. Think about an experience at work, at home, doesn't matter, that happened in the last 2 days, or even today, because for some of us it's in the evening. So think about something that you experienced, and then using the image that you see in front of you, identify the emotion associated with that experience and dwell on it, and also look back into, once you've identified it, see on which of the circles it is, and then see where it leads you to. So 30 seconds, think about an experience, identify the emotion that you associated with it, how you felt at that point in time, and see where it takes you. And think about what you learned by doing that.
Hi, Meenakshi. Can you please explain this to me again, the question, because there was some network problem. It interrupted.
No worries, no worries. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, right now.
Okay. So think about an experience that happened in the last 2 days, even up until today, and think about how it made you feel. Identify that emotion, find it on the wheel, doesn't matter which circle. Like you see, there are 3 concentric circles here, right? So find that emotion on this image, doesn't matter which circle, and see where it leads you to, and what did you learn just by doing that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey Meenakshi, Swati here. Am I audible?
Yes, Swati.
Yeah, I might be skipping a step, but just so as a part of the activity, so if I recognized and identified which inner circle do I relate to, are we going to discuss like how do we shift to a more peaceful, joyful part of it? Like just a question.
I'm going to say my piece and I'll pass it to Mindee on this. What I have done is once I've identified so let's say, for example, if it led me to, let's say, scared.
Right.
And that's the inner circle. One of the things, the key things that I've learned to do is not to try to escape whatever I'm feeling. Our tendency is to label emotions as good or bad, positive or negative, and we are conditioned to believe that we always need to be in the good phase, in the good spot, and we need to quickly get out of the bad spot. And I've done this for the last, I don't know, 30 plus years. What I've recently realized is that if I stay in whatever zone I am and really understand why I'm feeling the way I am and what happened, what led to it. Because if I don't do that work, I'm going to come across that situation again and I wouldn't know what to do because I'm still looking a way out as quickly as possible to get out of feeling whatever I'm feeling because I'm thinking it's negative, it's not good. So scared, I shouldn't feel scared. That's the conditioning I have. And so I need to figure a way out. But what I've learned to do now is to spend time in feeling scared and understanding why, what led to me feeling scared, and what should be the next step for me to move from that. So two things. One is stop labeling emotions as good or bad, number one. And I'm speaking for me, myself. And number two, not be in a hurry to get out of whatever it is.
Okay, so you suggest that, yeah, it does. Like, don't try to escape or fast forward the phase, but let it take its time and acknowledge what you're feeling.
Exactly.
Is what I interpreted.
And Susan David says it beautifully. She says, name it, claim it, let it go.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Of course. Mindee, over to you.
Okay. Okay, so again, there are lots of tools to take next steps beyond that, but that's a really great place to start. And if you can get in the habit of just getting better with articulating your emotions, recognizing, identifying, articulating your emotions, it's a little bit of a different journey from everybody in my personal experience as a coach, and also just from my perspective. What works for one person isn't necessarily what's going to work for another person. And the pieces of that are the most powerful and useful, sometimes they just emerge, and you know by doing the exercise. So I love that Meenakshi was expressing stay with it, don't try to escape it, and not labeling them as good or bad. But beyond that, it's your journey. And you kind of need to just see what emerges for you as you do the exercise and get better at identifying and articulating them. Often you won't need anybody else to tell you. You'll just intuitively and internally know what to do with it next. So another area that can be extremely powerful to harness and will give you a significant advantage is truly understanding your self-awareness. Now, I feel like in today's world, self-awareness, just like the word authenticity, have become buzzwords that are starting to get terribly watered down and not mean anything. So I wanted to put a little bit of definition around this, because if we're going to talk about it, you should understand what I'm trying to say. Dr. Tasha Eurich, and I have a link here on this slide, has a free quiz to give you a little bit more clarity on where you fall in self-awareness. I really like the way that she separates it out. Self-awareness is two completely separate and distinct tracks. There's internal self-awareness, which is the ability to see clearly who you are on the inside, understanding your values, passions, strengths, weaknesses, etc. And then there's external self-awareness, and that's seeing yourself from the outside in, understanding how other people view you. You might have excellent internal self-awareness, but really need a lot more development in external self-awareness, and vice versa. So whether or not you decide to take this quiz and see where you fall, we can all make improvements no matter how aware we are. And this is the point that this is a data point that I feel we all need to hear. 15% of people are actually self-aware, while 85% of us think we are. So that means that most of us in this room right now together think we're self-aware and don't need to do this. You're probably wrong. I'm wrong. We all need to do the work, and this is a great area, and there's a lot of opportunities and tools out there to continue to build your self-awareness. Harness it to be powerful for you, and again, give you an advantage. So along with that, improving your self-awareness, I want to introduce you to my favorite tool, a great place to start for self-awareness. There's lots of different personality assessments out there, and a lot of them are wonderful. This one, it's ancient. It's literally been around for a couple thousand years. It's extremely simple and elegant, and it's one of the things that I feel gives you the benefit of creating internal self-awareness, external self-awareness, but then equally important, being able to understand others as well. So the more you improve your self-awareness, you may or may not also be able to understand others better. This is a tool that will help you do that too. Navigating communication styles and personalities in business is crucial. And what the Enneagram does is it's based on 9 different patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting. And it creates an opportunity for you to go, okay, so I'm most similar to this particular type, and this is how other people might describe me. This is adjectives other people might use to describe me. Or, wow, these are expectations I have of everybody. I didn't know we all didn't think the same way about this. It really gives you, in a relatively short period of time, some key pieces of information to smooth relationships in business, with your family, with your friends, everywhere, and with yourself, honestly, with yourself too. So I have at the bottom of the screen a link to a quick Enneagram quiz that you might want to take. It will give you the gist, but if this resonates with you and you want to dig in more, I would like to introduce you to this book. It's called The Essential Enneagram by Dr. David Daniels and Virginia Price. It's very thin. You can see it's inexpensive, easy to get on Amazon, and you don't even read it front to back. You do a short assessment exercise in the beginning of the book, and then it leads you to the other sections that are most pertinent for you. I highly recommend it. And again, if you email me, if you didn't catch this, if you email me, I'd be happy to send you the information on it. Okay, Meenakshi.
Yeah, thank you. So in the context of understanding others, and based on my experience, I wanted to also talk about cultural intelligence and what that means and why is that important. Number one, most of us, almost all of us, at least in the knowledge work industry, we work in global teams. We have people from all over the world that we collaborate with. Our companies are international, our businesses are international. People like Mindee and I, we do virtual coaching, which means our clients can be anywhere in the world. So as important as it is to understand ourselves, a good segue from the Enneagram, where it also talks about understanding others, is another tool that I'll put a link to it in the chat in a minute. But all of this is actually based on the work of Geert Hofstadter, the late Dutch social psychologist. He was a longtime IBM employee and did a lot of research in organizational anthropology. And I have studied his work and also used this tool myself at work. I've always worked in global teams, multicultural teams. And some of the aspects from his work, and I combined it with my own experience. So those are the 5 bullet points that you see on the left-hand side. National cultures, the concept of power distance, how different gender roles, there are stereotypes associated with that in different cultures. What is your first language? In the world of business, it tends to be English that's used, that's become the lingua franca. Now, whether or not English is your first language, you do tend to use it at work. And how do you view time? So these are 5 elements that struck me and that resonated with me in all of the work that Hofstadter has done. What you see as a screenshot on the right-hand side is a result of the tool that's used. So essentially, Hofstadter's model, it's called the 6D model of culture. There are 6 dimensions, and there's a tool that allows you to plug in the country name, and it tells you what those 2 countries look like on those 6 dimensions. I'll share the link, like I said. The main thing that I wanted to, the takeaway for you that I wanted to share with you is all of us, remember I said we all show up, we bring our whole selves to work. So depending on how we were raised, where we are originally from, what languages we speak, how many languages we speak, these are things that really shape our personalities, both at work and outside of work. And understanding how these play out within your teams at work is very important, whether you're leading teams or whether you're part of a team. When, for example, when you're, and I've experienced this a lot in project management, for instance, certain teams or with certain team members, it's much easier to get a deadline and an agreement on deadlines, whereas with certain folks and teams, it's different, or it takes longer, or it takes a different route to get there. And understanding whether how they view time. So certain cultures, particularly in the Western world, it tends to be a more rules-based society. So you can make appointments 6 months in advance and no need for reminders, and people will show up. To the other end of the spectrum, which is relationship-based societies, which is mainly South Asia, South America, large parts of Africa, and the Middle East. Who in the relationship becomes important. So who's asking you for something? Is it your boss, or is it your someone that works on your team? Is it your spouse? And then depending on the level of importance that is associated with that relationship, the task or what you're doing will get done in that sequence. So those are some differences between different national cultures. So that's just an example. Understanding how these elements play out within your teams and understanding yourself. So I, for example, I'm born and raised in India, moved to the US, but a large part of me at work especially, I'm more Western in the sense I'm more rules-based than relationship-based. So for me, commitments and deadlines are they don't move based on who's asking me to do them. So I understand that about myself because I understand where I come from and what my work style is. So getting that and then developing that sense, I think will again, to Mindee's point, give you a leg up in your own careers and businesses. And I'll share the link in a minute. Back to you, Mindee.
Actually, Meenakshi, why don't you go ahead and put the link in there? Because then I think you're shifting into be curious about yourself.
Yes, I missed that. So talking about powerful questions, we saw that was one of the things that people were really interested in. This is a great exercise that Mindee has come up with, and I've used a different version of this in some of my workshops as well, and also in my work with teams. And take a moment to do this. Again, we're going to really do a 30-second exercise on this. Share if you want in the chat window. Just think about things such as, what are you good at? What energizes you? What drains you? So think about that. And these are some basic questions that you can start off with about yourself. And then taking the time to look for this information in others as well. So expanding your awareness of others, that's a good way to do that. But the starting point is yourself. So these are, this is just a quick peek at the list of questions. Please, you can look at Mindee's website and or email her to get more information on this. But this is, again, being curious the best place to start is with yourself. Yeah. Take a few questions like, what are you good at? What drives you? What energizes you? And just, jot down your responses either in your heads or wherever you would like. We can move on. So the next, continuing with curiosity, once you've figured out what are some key drivers and motivators and or deflators, next step, this is another great exercise that I have done as part of one of Mindee's workshops that I myself have, where Mindee led this. Take each letter of the English alphabet and describe yourself. And the key is you're being intentional in this. and describe yourself either in a word or in a sentence. And as it says here, this is also something that you can have someone else do that, describe you, have someone else describe you, and that will be a great window into how you come across to others. So this is a great exercise, and we would definitely encourage you to participate in this right now. So if you want to share in the chat window, or if you want to write this for yourself, so I'll call out an alphabet. So let's look at a letter. Let's say G. And let's take a couple of seconds to do this. Either a sentence or a word that describes you. And please feel free to share it in the chat window if you'd like. Lovely, grateful, grounded, good, graceful, gentle, soft-spoken. Wonderful.
While you're finishing and sharing, can I jump in for just a second, Meenakshi?
Yeah, yep.
Because
please.
I wasn't speaking, I decided to do it too. And every time I do it, it's a little bit different. I have no idea where this came from or why, but what I wrote down was grief. I need to fully experience grief. Have no idea where it came from. Usually I can put intentions around these types of exercises and keep them business focused or whatever, but I just in the moment decided to pick it up. So I'm sharing it only because I surprised myself, and I don't know what this is about exactly, but it's worth paying attention to, that I should revisit this later and just honor wherever this came up from and whatever it might mean for me. I love that you are all so far, what I'm not seeing them, but from what Meenakshi's reading, coming up with you know, really positive, affirmative words, but don't limit yourself. That's why I'm bringing it up. Let it be whatever it is, and let the sentence make sense or not make sense, because sometimes you can revisit it later in the day, the following day, a week later, and it can really be informative for you in a way that you might not have predicted.
Absolutely. And I was thinking this could also you know, tie back to the feeling wheel and see you can tie it back and then process it a little bit more. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let's do one more really quick. Let's say the letter R. The letter R. And I'm doing this myself as well. Thank you for sharing. Receptive, respectful, rich, rise above. Robust research, that's an alteration. That's interesting. Fantastic. Resilient, reflective, great. I wrote down radiator. I'm an information radiator. If I learn something, I have to share it. Responsive, ready to help, wonderful. So it's what really is coming up for me here is there's so much that each of us has to offer. And so the next time you are thinking of putting your hat in the ring for a promotion, talking to your boss about a raise, think about all these things and articulate it. We all have a voice, we just need to find it. And so doing this kind of an exercise with intentionality takes a few minutes before a major meeting, before, let's say, you're going to pitch an idea. This is a fantastic way that Mindee has put together where you can give yourself authentic feedback and then derive strength from that in your whatever next you have to articulate or do. This is great, and thank you everyone for participating. So there's another one. Oh, I just caught my eye. Rejectful of ideas sometimes when I'm pissed or mad. This is very, yeah, so this is again, and that's very courageous of you to be authentic about that.
And actually, like, so in an initial response, that could be seen as a negative. It doesn't have to be a negative.
Yep.
I think it's also good to be able to learn about these things about ourselves, and then you can give it a little spin. You can take the good parts, minimize the bad parts. You can acknowledge it and go, actually, this serves me really well sometimes. So all of it is worthwhile recognizing. And I love that one. That's a great example for that. It does take some bravery, honestly, to do this, even just doing it for yourself. If nobody else is going to see it, doing it and writing it down does require a little bit of vulnerability and bravery, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. Back to you, Mindee.
Okay. So I want to take us through another exercise, and this one will probably take a couple more minutes. Let's talk about your attributes. So getting curious about yourself, understanding your feelings, getting more self-aware. Some of these tools are ways to become more self-aware. In the business world, being able to have a really good handle on what are your attributes. What do you want your attributes to be? You have the power to enhance or incorporate things that you either may not feel like you bring to the table as much as you would like to, or things that you recognize in role models, or things that you think are important to get to wherever that next goal is. This is an exercise that I want to take several minutes and do it together now, because what you come out with on the other end are basically daily affirmations that you can use to keep reflecting this back to yourself in the mirror and bringing more of it into your life. So it's really simple. It just takes a little bit of time. Which attributes do you want to enhance and incorporate? I want you to write down maybe 10 or 12 of these, and I'm going to show them to you a little larger here. These are attributes just to get your juices flowing. You can have your own. You don't have to use any of these. Some of them are present tense, some are past tense. They're different parts of speech. It's just to spark your thought process on this and your desire. And as you're picking your 10 or 12 words, if you can feel into it, not just do this with your head, but let your heart be part of this, it will be additionally powerful for you. So while you're writing down your 10 or 12, I'm going to give you, I don't know, a few seconds here to do so. I'm going to just read a few of them out. Bravery, grit, positivity, advantageous, gifted, effective, proficient, Meenakshi, why don't you let me know when you've got 10 or 12 down, and we'll consider that a good point to move this forward. Okay? All right. Hopefully you've got a good, healthy handful at this point. Again, there's no right or wrong here. This is what is coming up for you, resonating with you in the moment. That's what's important. It's never in stone. The next step is we're going to take those 10 or 12 words that you wrote down, and then narrow them down. So I want you to take another minute. Why don't I do that? I'm going to give us a full minute because I want you to be able to sit with it. Take a full minute and just narrow them down and only keep 5. If you 3 to 7, I'm saying 5. Keep a small number that work for you.
Can we go back to the previous slide for a second? I just wanted to pick up a few more words.
Absolutely. Okay. It's been a minute. A couple people want to let me know in the chat room if we're good to keep moving forward, or do you need a little bit more time? At this point, you just need to have 5, narrowed down to 5 words, attributes that you would like to incorporate or enhance. Okay. Next step, you're going to take those 5 words and we're going to write sentences with those attributes in them that you want to intentionally enhance or incorporate in your life. I'm going to give you 2 examples, and it's best if these are truly affirmative. They are affirmations. That's what you're creating. So here's an example. If I chose skillful, I could say, I am a skillful writer. It's specific. It's speaking as if I already am, whether I may feel like I am or not. But I'm creating an affirmation for myself based on an attribute or quality that I want to incorporate and enhance in my life. Another example for you. Decisiveness. I am known for my decisiveness. So that one is, how do I want to describe this? So that one, to me, it's something where I'm going, okay, this is a way that other people view me. This is something that I want other people to see me as. I want them to see me as decisive. That would be a quality that I want to bring into my next position. And these might not resonate with you at all. You might not want anything to do with being skillful or decisive, but whatever you pick, you're trying to create affirmations from them in 5 succinct sentences. So I'm going to set the timer again. I'm going to do it for 2 minutes this time because I think you need to put a little bit of effort into it, and you may scratch stuff out and try again, and that's okay. But we're going to do this long enough for you to come up with some decent, meaty chunks that are worth taking away, that sit right with you. And maybe we can, when we get to the end of the 2 minutes, a couple people would be willing to share. Okay. I hope everybody at least got 1 or 2 sentences that they feel resonate with them today and that you actually would want to incorporate. Again, if this wasn't the right time for whatever reason and you come back to this exercise on your own time, it's still worthwhile doing, but you might be able to grab it right now today and keep these close to you, repeat them daily, and you might find it's shocking how they'll begin to just be incorporated into your life if you just intentionally say it out loud to yourself in the mirror every day. So do we have a few people, and maybe Meenakshi, you could read them out for us, some people that were willing to share some of their attribute sentences or affirmations?
Yeah, so I see Sifwa has already put hers in the chat window. Sifwa, do you want to read them out?
Sure, Meenakshi and Mindee, I would like to read it out. So I want to be victorious. Maybe I can explain these things later. I've just made short sentences because I'm very slow in typing. So I want to be victorious. I am creative. I'm skillful in research. I believe that innovative methods can help me become more victorious. I use constructive methods in what I do.
Love it. That's wonderful. So each of them are powerful, and just hearing you say them now, it's coming from you. You're creating it, regardless of whether you believe it or not, because we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome where we're not sure we're supposed to be where we are. We don't think we're good enough. It happens to everybody sometimes. But you, as you're speaking them to this group, you're already sending it out there into the world that this is who you are. And these are attributes that you absolutely, powerfully show to the world. Thank you for that. I appreciate it a lot.
It's amazing.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead. Say that.
I'm just surprised. I'm amazed to hear that.
It's great. I love it. And I also like that you have victorious woven into 2 of them. I think there's some extra power there. It's clearly important. And so, they're kind of holding each other up. Those 2 prop each other up. Yeah.
I have some experiences also, maybe in the later part of it, maybe if I can share it with you.
Absolutely. I think we're doing great on time, so we might end up being able to do a little bit of chatting and Q&A after too. That, if we can, that'd be wonderful.
So I want to be victorious. The experiences that I have based on the steps that I have taken, they are a little bit saddening, but still yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so we have Padma. Do you want to read them out really quick?
Sure. I put, I'm productive, dependable, and tenacious. I have faith in my ability. So those I know, I'm self-aware. I think I'm in the 15%. I want to do, what I put was, I want to practice grit. And I want to spare more time for innovation. I think I have great ideas, but I don't have the time.
So
That's
you're
fantastic.
creating the time right now. You are putting it out there and creating the time for that. Yep.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. I'm going to keep moving. I think we get the point of it. I hope everybody was able to get at least 1 or 2 nailed down, and I encourage you to work on this more later and bother using them. See, even if you could commit to yourself to do it 3 days in a row, and just see what happens. Okay,
Absolutely.
Meenakshi?
Yep, thank you. This is another wonderful exercise that I'd seen before, but the way that Mindee has put this together, and again, there's a link to her post where Mindee explains this in fantastic detail. So essentially, and some of you may have seen this before. So the Wheel of Life, it has 7 8 quadrants, 8 sections, if you will, and you have the opportunity to rate on how you feel, where you are, rate it on how satisfied you are on a scale of 1 to 10. So you have business and career, finances, health, family and friends, romance, personal growth, fun and recreation, and your physical environment. So that's what the wheel is comprised of, and you can see there's a scale of 1 to 10 on each of those, like spokes of a wheel, if you will. This really, a couple of things, right? Once you do this exercise, again, it takes a few minutes, and just sit down and again, intentionality, awareness and intentionality. We keep coming back to that. Taking the time to do this allows you to, number one, get a picture of your entire life, where you are. So you get like a radar graph, if you will, if you plot all the points, connect all the points after you plot them. And then you're in a position to, once you've categorized them, you're also able to then next take a look at, okay, what do you want to prioritize first? What do you want to focus on? What is most important to you? And in that context, understanding yourself, all of the work that we've done up until now, again, going back to, building a house, you start with the idea, the foundation, all of that. And then this, to me, helps me put all of that in context with one another, all of those different spokes. So really, really highly encourage you to take advantage of this resource that Mindee has put out, and spend some time to categorize and prioritize the areas of your life that you want to focus on and what you want to start with, and then move on. Back to you.
Excellent. Okay. Regardless of how well you are able to move forward to your goals, whether it's innately since you were a child, skills that you've developed as an adult, how successful you are, however you define success, we all hit roadblocks, we all get stuck, and we all have trouble working through various challenges and problems. There's no way around it. So what I wanted to do was give you 2 tools. There's probably 1,000 out there. I don't even know. I know personally of a healthy handful that I like to use regularly in my coaching, but and for myself and for personal use. But I'm going to give you 2 tools because they're pretty different, but they achieve the same goal. If you have a challenge, I want you to think about being able to put it on a plate of food. And I am going to use the example of, I want to quit my job. Most all of us have probably been there at some point or another, maybe today, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know, but probably everyone has had a time where they were like, oh, I just want to quit my job. So that can seem like a really black and white thing. First of all, it's I'm going to quit my job or I'm not going to quit my job. That's number one. When we are emotionally charged with a problem and we're stuck, especially when we feel like we're stuck in a rock and a hard place, there's truly no positive way out. We think there's only 2 choices. It's black and white, and it's almost never the case. You can usually find a whole bunch of different options in there to help you move things forward into where it's not quite so painful anymore, or just because it's time to make a decision and not dwell on something anymore. Plate of food is, take a piece of paper, you draw a circle on it, that's your plate, and then you just start putting down the things that you can think of that are your options. So I want to quit my job, stay at my job, talk to my boss, work on a resume. You can put however many things on the plate that you want that come to mind as something to do with a way to move forward with the problem. Then you actually take a bite of it and chew it in your mind. You pretend you're picking it up and chewing. What does it feel like if I take a bite of and chew working on my resume? Maybe I'm feeling so strong about this that feels bland and soft and mushy. Maybe when I take a bite of talk to my boss, it feels spicy or gritty. What does it feel and taste like to you? And then which options are you willing to swallow? It'll help you be able to significantly reduce process of deductive reasoning and get down to, okay, well, how am I really going to move forward with this? So this is plate of food. And plate of food can be really good for people who are already inclined toward creativity, who are already inclined to playfulness, maybe they're kinesthetic learners. But it can also be really good for someone who's not, to stretch them outside of their comfort zone. The second tool I want to offer today is called Cartesian questions. And this is more for people who like lists and tend to focus in their analytic brain, as opposed to the more of a kinesthetic or experiential person. Again, I would argue that it's worthwhile stretching outside of your comfort zone in either direction, but I wanted to give you two different options today. So with the Cartesian questions, what you do is you write down your goal or decision on the lines at the top of it, and then we answer the questions in order of 1 to 4. Afterwards, you're going to want to dig deeper and ask yourself what else, and really see if you can get some more pieces on there. Give yourself time to digest the answers and figure out what works. But I'm going to read through it just so you get the idea of it in relation again to I want to quit my job. So if I do quit my job on that top line, then I would read question number 1. What would happen if I did quit my job? I would write down answers. Number 2, what wouldn't happen if I did quit my job? Then you move over to number 3. What would happen if I didn't quit my job? What wouldn't happen if I didn't quit my job? So for me, in the way that my brain works, I can very rarely get to number 4 and feel coherent in putting down answers, but it's excellent to help push yourself and think about it. It's really just the same question over and over again, but it helps you twist and look at it from a different perspective. And often people will come up with answers that they just really never thought of, and pieces of the puzzle that hadn't crossed their mind before. So we were going to do the exercise with this, but I'm looking at the timing now, and I think that we're going to skip it. So if you have time after this, I encourage you to come up with a problem and then decide to either do plate of food or Cartesian questions for it. Again, email us or take a screenshot right now. Happy to send you the full slide deck so you can work with these tools after the workshop. Okay, I am going to share with you now one technique it's beautiful. It pulls into your emotions, not just your head, and it is for the big goals. I want to be CEO. I want to run my own company. I want a dream house. I want the perfect partner. Whatever it is, this is a wonderful setting of an intention exercise for those big things. After this, I'm going to give you a tool for more small, incremental, right in front of you intention setting. But just humor me on this one. I'm actually going to just read it straight off of my favorite book that describes this is Shakti Gowan's book, Creative Visualization. And she just describes it in a lovely way that I really like. So this is the pink bubble technique. And if you would all just get comfortable for a second and shut your eyes, that would be great. So this meditation exercise is simple and wonderfully effective. Sit or lie down comfortably, close your eyes, and breathe deeply, slowly, and naturally. Gradually relax deeper and deeper. Imagine something that you would like to manifest. Imagine that it's already happened. Picture it as clearly as possible in your mind. What do you see, feel, hear, taste, smell? Now, in your mind's eye, surround your fantasy with a pink bubble. Put your goal inside the bubble. Pink is the color associated with the heart. And if this color vibration surrounds whatever you visualize, It will bring to you only that which is in perfect affinity with your being. The third step is to let go of the bubble and imagine it floating off into the universe, still containing your vision. This symbolizes that you're emotionally letting go of it. Now it's free to float around in the universe, attracting and gathering energy for its manifestation. There's nothing more you need to do. Okay. I'm going to shift gears here and go through a granular setting an intention worksheet. And you can get it on my website if you'd like. It's a Mad Lib style, so you fill in words. I recommend using color, using very descriptive words. Don't stick to the simple stuff, but push yourself with your language. All you do is choose a goal, fill in the words, and then read it aloud daily. So really, it's another affirmation for yourself. But I have one that's simple, and it's about a garden. So I'm going to read this one to you. In 1 month, I will have thoroughly cleaned out the gardens and planted a new flower species for this summer. The garden boxes will have dark brown mulch with ceramic painted plant tags, tall flowers in back, greenery in the middle, and a new flower type in the front. To achieve this, I will purchase garden gloves and mulch, research the flower types at the garden center, and weed for 10 minutes each evening. To hold myself accountable, I will tell 3 friends of my plans and ask them to check in at least weekly on my progress. So again, I would love to be able to spend more time with these, but I hope you're getting the idea of how you can incorporate these into your life to create action, especially on those types of things that either seem too impossible or that you just keep not bothering to do. All right, Meenakshi.
Thanks, Mindee. Speaking of accountability, this is another cool exercise worksheet that you can do with a partner, so accountability partner, and use the accountability checklist. This is another fantastic resource that Mindee has come up with. And Mindee and I actually have done this informally, where ever since we met a few months ago, we actually check in every, at least once a month, and we talk about what projects is working on, and brainstorm ideas, and we talk about what are things that we have done and what are things that we're going to do. In fact, me being here as part of this workshop is as a result of one of these conversations. And so this is another really, really effective technique and tool that you can use. It's one thing that both Mindee and I would like to call out is it's extremely important that you find like-minded people with a shared sense of purpose and commitment, because it does take commitment where you meet. If you look at it time-wise, it's not a lot of time, but the work that you have to put in before and after to make that 30-minute meeting useful and productive that's the key. So and you can go to the link that's here on the slide to get this worksheet. It's on his website, betterwithrose.com. The idea is that you find a partner, you spend 30 minutes weekly. For me, it's like a personal retrospective. You talk about what you've done, and then you spend time on committing yourselves to goals that you're going to accomplish for the next time period. Highly, highly encourage this. So with that, we are kind of towards the end of this workshop. Just wanted to do a quick run through, and for me, these are the 5 takeaways. And this is again something my mentor always told me, that it's easy to remember 5 things because you have 5 fingers, easy to count it off. Number 1, these are things that have worked for me. Start finishing anything that you take on. Start finishing, and it's not about how many projects that you start, but the key is how many do you finish. So again, the focus on action that Mindee was talking about. Self-care is extremely important. You can't pour from an empty cup. So no is a complete sentence. Use it as such. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else that you've already committed. Remember that. again, self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup. So for example, the fact that all of you are here today is you're taking care of yourself because you're investing in yourself. Don't believe everything that comes to your mind is a thought. A lot of times we have this inner critic that is so much more powerful than everything else, all the other voices in our head. Our inner critic might tell us things that is very easy for us to believe. So question your thoughts. Lastly, something that I referred to earlier, emotions are your data. So, using the feeling wheel technique, understanding your emotions and, make the most of them. And because your emotions are what you make of them, right? So with that, I really want to encourage you all to take back your power and use your voice. Over to you, Mindee.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi. So this is my last thought that I'm going to throw out here for you. Right now, in the moment, you have the ability, capacity, and tools to create action and mobility. We have never in the history of the world had so much access to knowledge, information. A lot of it's free or low cost. You can get what you need at your fingertips right now, globally. So take advantage of that and recognize that you've got it in you to make this happen. So what do you expect of yourself on this journey?